think don't be afraid to take a risk. You try, you measure, you learn. Every single thing you try, you will learn something from, good or bad. And most of these things, you can you can flip a switch on, you can flip a switch off. As you're thinking about these risks, just watch out for one-way doors. Something that would be very hard to take back. So just try to think about it in a way that is, if I want to try this, if I think this could work, if I'm seeing this somewhere else, as I am a customer, and that we should all be customers and be thinking about that as we're shopping on our own. But just thinking about taking those risks, not being afraid of them, but also understanding, like, how can I back out of it if it's the wrong thing? And then how do I make sure that I learn something from it and I kick that flywheel off again?
Welcome to our Ask Me Anything session. Thank you so much, guys, for joining in. And this is going to be a very special session. I was just speaking with Aviel, and why it is special? Number one thing, this is, I would say, it's the highest grossing AMA for us yet. We got 233 registration, which is amazing. The last one which we did was the highest ever for us. It was 93 registrations, so it's a huge jump. And all kudos to Aviel, our host and guest of the day. And welcome to our community. Welcome to our session, Aviel. So grateful for you to taking out time for us.
It's absolutely my pleasure. I'm thrilled to be here, and thank you for inviting me.
Thank you so much, Aviel. And before we begin, guys, those of you who have been here for the very first time, we are doing this on behalf of Roaring Ladies of E-commerce. The picture that you see here, it's a community dedicated only and exclusively for women in e-commerce. So, these sessions are meant for you to be comfortable, for you to understand, learn how things are done, the way they are done. Usually we usually call up people who have done really well in their career, who have been working with great brands, achieved, I would say, achieved something very, very special in their part of journey. And today, for that aspect, we have Aviel. I'll quickly read out, how amazing she has, run her career. So she's a seasoned e-commerce leader with over a decade of experience driving digital growth for top consumer brands. In her current role as director of e-commerce at Glossier, she's responsible for the end-to-end site experience. That's right, guys. Today we are going to cover a lot of things around that. With a special focus on conversion rate optimization. That's her forte. Prior to Glossier, she worked more on the technical side, holding senior digital product roles at Dick's Sporting Goods and Amazon, where she launched and scaled customer experiences across checkout, fulfillment, along with new innovative retail technologies. Aviel combines deep product strategy expertise with a data-driven mindset to deliver measurable business outcomes. A very, very warm welcome, Aviel. We are super, super grateful to have you. This community would love to understand your journey so far and what made you, to achieve such an amazing success in your career yet. So over to you, Aviel.
Thank you. I think I attribute it to just a deep curiosity and a desire to not say no to anything. So my background before Amazon was actually in marketing and more business to business. And once I got to Amazon, I had the opportunity to start out in marketing. And then I like to say I sort of like let go of the side of the pool and jumped into the deep end and switched into something super technical, just feeling like that would be a great place to learn a new skill set. And that's where I spent maybe the next 5-6 years of my career. And then the last 4, I had another opportunity, which was moving out of the technical space and more into the business owner conversion rate, partnering more with technology. And it just offered me an opportunity to learn an entirely new scope, an entirely new way to think about the business. And so I think just that curiosity is really what's helped me, continue to find new opportunities and learn and grow. And this world of e-commerce is certainly a space where that something is always changing, some new technology is always coming out. So I think that served me well.
Amazing, Aviel. Just one thing when you were talking about your early days of your career and then, how do you picked up D2C side of things, just curious, Aviel, it takes a lot of hard work to, first build your career into something, and then, pick up a forte, pick up a specialization, and become better and better on it. What motivated you to work so hard in your life, Aviel? What's that source of inspiration for you?
Oh, that's a great question. Honestly, I think I have always, I think I've just always been somebody who is achievement driven. I like to set goals for myself and figure out what it takes to achieve those goals. I've had amazing mentors in my career, and I think always looking to find somebody who I think is better at what I'm trying to be than I currently am, and asking them questions and understanding, like, what are you doing? Like, give me feedback, trying to have, cultivate those kinds of relationships that really allow for there to be a good loop of what am I doing well? Where can I improve? What are some of my strengths, technical, personal, and what are some of the things that I can do to really leverage those? And the more you start to see where you feel like you can stand out, I feel like that's where I would double down and say, okay, I feel like this is the unique thing that I'm going to bring to this situation or to this role or to this team, and how can I best leverage that to continue moving forward?
This is
And
super
having a
amazing,
very
Aviel.
helpful support system around me has also been
Absolutely.
incredibly
Like
important.
you mentioned mentors, Aviel, that is, I also believe, truly believe that it's the core of any successful person, whether it's a woman or a man. If you have right mentors in your life, things are sorted. And that's why this community came into being. We believed people such as you would add immense value to people who want to be there, someday. So thanks for that, Aviel. What I'll do is I'll start with the questionnaires that we have got from these amazing women in our community, and we'll go one by one. Guys, if you have any additional question beyond this, we'll try to save the last 5 minutes of the session. Usually, we don't have that time because there are tons of questions in my hand. But if that does not happen, Aviel is part of our community. Feel free to put up your message in the channel. So let's begin, Aviel. I'll start with this one. Okay, first thing first. How does your team structure at Glossier look like between DTC, Amazon, and other digital channels?
So the way that we're set up internally is that we have individual channel teams. So we have our owned retail stores, our owned .com, as well as our wholesale. And so those are each individual teams all laddering up to the same senior leader, or excuse me, executive leadership team, individual C-level executive. But I think so while we have sort of these individual channels and our own areas of ownership, what we've done that I think really helps to make sure that lines of communication stay open is that we have a number of touch points, shared documents, and different like mechanisms and ceremonies so that we're all connected on what does the calendar look like across channels, what are the different activations that are going to be running, what do we need to keep in mind, where is PR focusing on, where is like brand going to be focusing on. And so that allows us to maintain a lot of very important threads, especially if you just want to think about just the whole retailer.com. We definitely learn a ton from our wholesale partners, and we share data, from what's working on our own site. Even though we think about those two channels very differently, I think being able to share those learnings and maintain those open pathways of communication really help us to maintain that like CRO lens across the funnel and sort of wherever our customers are finding us.
That makes a lot of sense. And since you mentioned CRO, let's deep dive into that topic, Aviel. So one thing, uh, can you talk a little bit more about number one, CRO as a team or as an effort, as an initiative in the company? How do you see it spanning out? Like, does it become core of marketing, or do you see it separately from marketing? And also, if you can, structure the answer in a way where if you can talk about some non-negotiable tools that you see are valuable for CRO, and also if you can talk about, like, how do you, do tests? How do you,
Mhm.
optimize your journey as part of CRO, of course? How do you optimize your journey basis different A/B testing that you do on website, and hence that results into a great site experience? Just a bit on
Yeah, loaded question. Let me try and tackle it in order.
that.
So I think in terms of conversion rate optimization or CRO, I think ultimately I see that as my team and my partner teams, we have shared ownership of it, but I think ultimately owning the end-to-end site experience, that falls on my team in terms of like a core responsibility.
Okay.
However, we talk to our partner teams in, life cycle, in performance, on the digital product side, our engineering team. It's a shared goal because essentially all of what they're doing is an input to that output, which is the conversion on the site. And so understanding what's working for them. Our performance team's constantly doing testing around landing pages. Which site landing page do we want to send them to? What, do we want to create one specifically for the ad? As well as, our emails, what are they driving
Yeah.
to? Is it the product page? Is it more of a brand page? So I think it's everybody's responsibility to keep that in mind because ultimately we want the customer to land on our site in the place that will give them the best opportunity to convert. Sometimes that's the product page. Sometimes from upper funnel, we have a number of more storytelling brand elevated pages, which help introduce you, if you're a new customer, to who we are, what is our philosophy, why do we, what is skin first, makeup second mean? So we try to all work very closely together in order to run those kinds of experiments and test and learn into what the right place is, depending on where you're coming from and what stage of the funnel that we believe you're in, or as well as if you're already new versus returning. So in that regard, in terms of some of the sort of ride or die tools, I think we have a number of analytics tools that we use internally. One of them is we use something called Full Story, which for site experience has been incredibly helpful. It takes all of the data that you would have from, a GA4 or from just what's looking at your
Okay.
sessions and conversion, and actually allows you to weave together a more visible funnel. You can watch session replay. We can actually monitor customers to not on an anonymized level, but just understand like what are those common pathways? Where do we see frustration points? Where are they clicking that there's nothing to click? And so all of those things allow us to take away and understand, optimize how we can optimize them. And then in terms of our A/B testing, our goal is to always have a test live. And that's across the ecom site, as well as our paid partners, as well as our email and lifecycle team. And the way that we try to think about what we want to test, there's always some little thing I think that we can learn from language and copy tests, content tests. But now we're trying to get much more into understanding from a personalization perspective, like what's the right thing to show a first-time customer landing on the homepage versus a repeat customer landing directly on a product page, and how do we want to think about those different opportunities we have to engage with them and what we believe that they're looking for. And so that's having an A/B testing tool is critically important for us, especially one that gives you some of the features where you can do a lot of the WYSIWYG editing and you don't need to pull in the engineering team as much.
Yeah.
That allows my team to be a bit more agile and work more quickly to get smaller tests up. And then we also partner with our digital product team, who's incredible, just thinking about what does that overall roadmap look like? So what are some of the bigger features we may want to be thinking about while we're running some of these smaller sort of like test and learn moments? And then understanding what the business impact of those we expect to be, and then being able to get those out and test and understand exactly what the impact was.
This is super interesting, Aviel, and especially the part where you mentioned agility, because experimentation is the core of conversion rate optimization. So, just for the fun fact for our community, which has been your highest, or, a month where you ran the highest number of experiments and what that number was?
Um, I don't know if, I mean, I think
Is it in
um,
hundreds or tens or
oh
even
no,
hundreds?
no, no, no. It's probably closer to the dozens. So I think we are a lean but mighty team. And so I think if you look across all of the different teams who are using experimentation, I think, every single week, every single day, we have something running in the background to give us rule, whether that is, like I said, something big that's going to need to run for a while versus smaller content tests. Like we really try to map all that out. And then we have some great ceremonies internally where we're able to across teams share what the results have been, what did we learn, what's the next iteration that we want to run, and then when can we get that booked out.
Super interesting. And Aviel, in continuation to this, content plays a very major role in CRO. So how do you usually partner with the content teams? Because usually they have their own set of tasks, and how do you, manage to take out their bandwidth, which could be
Mhm.
used for the CRO efforts?
Great question. I think we partner really closely, and over the last year, I think we have really worked on defining a number of processes that work very well across our team and with the creative team, because creative is obviously serving brand, performance, physical product. So they get pulled in a number of directions. So we have worked really hard to develop some processes with them where all of the channel teams from across eCommerce, as in all of our owned channels, come to them 6 to 8 weeks or more ahead of when we would be looking at a different month of activations, for example. And so we are working hand in hand with them to let them know, here's what the calendar is going to look like. Here are the areas that we want to focus on. Here's what brand moments we want to ignite across various channels. Here's how we plan to do it. And then that way they're able to really plan in their work further ahead of time so that they can accommodate all of the different timelines that come from all of the channels at like both wholesale, retail, and owned e-commerce, as well as the marketing channels and different activations that need to be supported there. And I think one of the things that they most appreciate that we've worked really hard to share back with them is through our testing, everything that we're learning, all the different, conversion funnels and different things that we've been able to look at and measure and that we know we want to either optimize or that we feel are working really strongly. We share all of that data back with them, which is an incredibly important feedback loop. They come to our business reporting every week because that really helps them understand, one, how the amazing work that they're doing is paying off, but also when we're asking for something different, we're able to provide them with the data as to, here's, if we could tweak this, or if we could, focus more heavily here, or we need to have more like product shots like this versus on model for certain products. That's something that they can then take into their feedback loop, and it just reduces churn down the line. And they're amazing partners. I feel really fortunate to work with them. And that's something that, in my 4 years here at Glossier, I feel like has come a super long way. As we've expanded, I think it's just something that we had to figure out on the fly. And I think we've been doing a good job by having those kinds of lead timelines and back and forth discussions.
Super amazing, Aviel. In the end, you have to feel like one single team to deliver the efforts that you
Exactly.
put as part of CRO. Super interesting. Moving on to next. Aviel, when you see a drop in a category, let's say fragrance, what are your go-to actions? Add more to your retail media, sponsored campaigns, mailers, promotion. Would love to learn what a best-in-class company does to counter these type of drops.
So I think what we do first, and we kind of look at it, it depends on sort of the time frame. We have, weekly business, monthly business reviews where we're monitoring for different things. And I think sometimes while e-commerce is a 24/7 business, a trend is not something that always develops over a week. And so it's something that we keep an eye on week over week. And if we start to see things not recover after a drop, I think that's, we're always going to investigate it for that week. But I think we're going to start to dig a bit deeper if we see something doesn't correct. But what we do when we see that initially is first, we just take a look at all of the inputs. So what was the traffic to products in that category? Where did they come from? How did that look week over week? How did that look year over year? Is there anything that we're comping? Is there some virality that we, weren't aware of? And looking at the conversion of those pages and those funnels pre and post. So how did it look last week? How did it look last week, last year? How is it looking this year? And I think, like as I was saying, I would typically look at like a trailing 30-day review to really understand if this is an anomaly or a developing trend. And then that helps me understand the weight we need to put behind investigating it. And then as we gather those insights, as we put together the data, we start building out the story of, okay, it actually looks like, ad performance isn't as strong. And so that's what we're seeing is like, there's some fatigue. We probably need to rotate in some new creative, or we had one of our competitors maybe launched something in this category. It's getting a ton of, a ton of visibility. So we see some softness. So what do we need to do in order to, get some emails out to really, like, do we need to flip a homepage? How do we think about like, what are the different ways we can highlight that category or that product to try and get it a bit more visibility? So really, sometimes it's fueling higher performing ads. Sometimes it's re-engaging different email strategies, updating like imagery, copy hierarchy of the site content or merchandising. Do we need to rethink, when you're on the shop all page, where you see it, how many scrolls does it take to get to it? And then I think if it is something that starts to become a trend, like, do we need to revisit the calendar? Do we need to have, think about a bigger brand moment? Do we need to have some kind of, not always a promotion, but, just thinking about what are some of the different ways that we can try to reverse a trend if we do see it. Maybe it's a messaging shift. And so those are also things that we can test into to say, okay, if we aren't seeing a drop in traffic, if it's conversion, what are some things that we might want to investigate on the PDP? Or do we think that maybe we need to surface, like for fragrance, our scent note's not high enough on the page? Or is there a different way we should be describing it? Or do we need to make sure you can compare across all the fragrances that we have to help you make the decision? And we can try to like test and learn and quickly get those things spun up to understand, and then measure posts to understand if that's actually helping to reverse the trend or lift, or if it truly was just an anomaly.
Got it. Like, Aviel, this feels like there is so much to do when, things don't work out or there's a dip in the metric. So, just curious, do you have a checklist in place, or it's the instinct, when something goes wrong on PDP and you just understand from your experience that maybe these are like a couple of things that we should quickly tweak around pricing, description, or positioning of things on PDP? Or is it, a set checklist that your team has and you quickly experiment on that? How does it work?
So I think we have a checklist of where we start in
Okay.
terms of that I was sharing. So it really is like traffic and source, performance of ads, performance of emails, conversion of page, um, and looking at what was that in whatever period feels right, and then what was it in the last week. And then I think once we understand, once we feel like we have a better picture of what might be the cause, then there's some things that I think just from a gut perspective or from conversations we're having internally, we can quickly go to the product owner, the physical product owner, or we can go to the brand team, or we can go to copy and just say, hey, I think, this is what we're seeing. We would love to test tweaking this and see if it makes any difference.
Okay.
So we sort of know the tools that we have in our tool belt to action afterwards. But I would say that the checklist is really more about where do we want to start to help build the story around what we think is happening here.
Super interesting, Aviel. This question actually helped me a lot as well, because at Manifest AI, we deploy AI at different places on a PDP, and then it becomes really tricky on, how do we position it so that conversion become even more better. And this helped me a lot understanding how we should do it. Moving on to next question, Aviel, someone has asked, how do you leverage the art of brand storytelling throughout the e-commerce experience? Very interesting question, actually.
Yeah, and this is something I love this question, because I think Glossier especially
Yeah.
is, I think we believe our brand is our superpower, and it's
Yeah.
uh, something that we've worked really hard to partner with our internal team. So similar to creative, we work really collaboratively with our brand partners. So as we think about upcoming launches or new activations or tests we want to run, we work really closely with our brand marketing team to ensure that any one of these expressions feels authentic to who Glossier is, what we are. And honestly, the truest form of our brand expression is our own e-commerce site. And so that's really where we get to play. I think in wholesale and, retail is also an expression of our brand, but I think for customers coming, like our homepage is really the front door to who we are. And so we really believe that we can incorporate a lot more of that brand imagery, brand messaging. We have a number of, I think I shared earlier, a number of pages on site that really are more about like, what are our top makeup products? What is that category? Why should you care? New customer that we can send to you in the earlier part of the funnel, because we want to make sure that we can contextualize for any customer wherever they are, like why it is that they might want to shop with us, like who we are, what we care about, what our products are about, why, we believe so strongly in them.
Yeah.
And so I think really on our own site, remaining true to our brand is something that we always strive for. And so having a number of these internal, like we meet, I think every Monday with all of our marketing teams, brand performance, sort of across the funnel and creative, and just talk about, what are we working on, what brand activations are coming up, where are we running out of home, how can we best help customers have a home for that on the site as well. If they see a Glossier U truck driving around Soho and they want to learn more about it, like how can we make sure that we're getting you to the right place, and thinking about all of those activations all the way through seeing it in the wild to possibly adding it to your cart.
Got it, Aviel. And what I feel when I visit Glossier's website is a lot of inclusivity and comfort that I get when I go to the website, because the kind of models that you guys have deployed for every product that I saw on your website, it gave that comfort that it's for every other woman out there in their houses. So it made me feel like that. Maybe like, what do you think are the core values that you guys tried communicating through your website? Is that right? Which I was able
Yeah,
to.
absolutely. We were born off of you look good, right? Like everything we do is, you but better because you already look good. Like we pioneered the no makeup look because it's really about making every person, every woman feel like she is at her best, and the confidence comes from inside, and like we're just enhancing it with,
Yeah.
some different products.
Absolutely. I got that feeling from the website. So I guess you guys have done a really great job.
Oh, thank you.
We just have 5 minutes left. So I'll just cover the last question. And then we have a question that we do in every session that we have. So last question. And guys, I see a few questions on chat as well. Don't worry, we'll cover that in our community. Aviel is there. Don't feel sad about it. So moving on to next, in today's age of AI-based personalization, what are the tools and tricks to optimize the site as per user interest, past behavior, or segmentation? Any tips would do, Aviel?
Oh, so honestly, these are things that we're learning now. I think, looking at which strategies may be best across various points in the funnel for our customers. How do we want to think about segmenting customers? Testing into like things like recently viewed versus frequently bought together versus, manually curating things for customers.
Interesting.
I think what I found interesting, we've seen a number of vendors that we work with adding features to their products that are utilizing AI, but still looking at like true AI tools themselves. I think there's a number of them that are starting to come up, and I'm digging in, especially around AEO and how customers are going to starting, engaging with some of these AI bots in shopping, and Shopify's potential integration with ChatGPT. Like it's a wild new world. And so I think that's, to me, that my curiosity is like, ooh, there's so much to learn. And so those are things that I'm investigating now and trying to understand, how can we best show up in this new place where our customers may be finding us? What does that need to look like? How do we think about a landing experience for somebody who maybe came from, an AI agent versus somebody who came from Google versus somebody who came from TikTok? And like, what are all of those different ways that we need to think about personalizing that experience, and how can we best leverage AI to help us get to those decisions
Yeah.
faster?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Absolutely. Sorry, Aviel.
oh no, I was just gonna say, like, I think we just need to figure out how to best harness them. And I think
Yeah.
there's a number of really interesting ideas out there, and it's on, I think, like all the conference circuits. So I'm trying to learn as much as I can, and would love to learn from this amazing community too, and see what others are doing that's working for them.
Absolutely. It's just beginning of the AI era, I will. And one clear pattern that we are seeing with AI is, especially at Manifest, is uh, people, consumers, who are coming on website feel extremely comfortable speaking their heart out when they believe it's AI and it's not a human. And it's just a psychology thing, but it's definitely working out. But these are just early days, and we are just seeing
Yeah.
like few signs of that happening. Moving on to our last question, which is my favorite question, Avril, which is, like one piece of advice for the women in community who are just starting out there in their career, or even if they are in their mid-career, they want to pick up anything next, which is, for them, it's a courageous move. What would be that one piece of advice to them, Aviel?
I have a lot of good advice that I've been given throughout my career, I think.
Let it come, let it come.
Yeah.
We want to hear more than one.
I mean, I think don't be afraid to take a risk. I think early on in my career, I was always worried because everything that we do is live to somebody at any given moment when somebody is shopping, that sometimes that feels really intimidating. But honestly, like you try, you measure, you learn. Every single thing you try, you will learn something from, good or bad. And most of these things, you can you can flip a switch on, you can flip a switch off. And I think maybe one of the best ways to say it is something I learned from my Amazon career, which is just as you're thinking about these risks, just watch out for one-way doors. Something that would be very hard to take back. So just try to think about it in a way that is, if I want to try this, if I think this could work, if I'm seeing this somewhere else, as I am a customer, and we should all be customers and be thinking about that as we're shopping on our own. But just thinking about taking those risks, not being afraid of them, but also understanding like, how can I back out of it if it's the wrong thing? And then how do I make sure that I learn something from it and I kick that flywheel off again?
Yeah, super interesting. What I believe, Aviel, is what you scared from makes you even stronger. So,
Absolutely.
just keep trying, experiment with your life. Life is about experimentation. And
Yes. I tell my son all the time, you can't be brave if you're not scared first. So
absolutely. Yeah, 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 definitely, Aviel. Thank you so much for sharing it. I really loved, enjoyed, speaking with you. And I'm pretty sure everyone here who have joined us today would have loved the session as well. Thank you. Thank you so much, Aviel, for taking out time for us today.
thank you all for having me. I'm thrilled to be a part of this amazing community and look forward to engaging with you further in Slack.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Aviel. And guys who are not part of community yet, there would be a link on chat. You can join, or also you'll get an email from us, from my team shortly with a joining link. Please do join and chat with Aviel, chat with everyone there in the community. See you over there. Thank you so much, guys. Have a great day ahead. Bye-bye.